Now on BBC One, a special BBC News with Peter Sissons.
The Queen Mother has died peacefully at the age of 101. The announcement from Buckingham Palace said the Queen was at her bedside. Within minutes, people young and old started to gather and remember. The Prime Minister's tribute, she symbolised Britain's decency and courage. And the other news, Arafat defiant as another suicide bomber hits Israel. Good evening. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, has died in her 102nd year. She died at Windsor at 3:15 this afternoon. Buckingham Palace said the end was peaceful and the Queen was at her side. Members of the royal family are arriving at Windsor tonight. Prince Charles, who says he's devastated, and the Princes William and Harry will return from their skiing holiday in Switzerland tomorrow. The Prime Minister has led the nation's tributes. She was, he said, admired by all people of all ages and backgrounds, revered within our borders and beyond. Parliament is to be recalled for MPs to pay their tributes next week. The Queen Mother's body will be moved tomorrow morning to the Royal Chapel of All Saints at Windsor, and funeral plans will be known in the next few days. Tonight at Windsor and Buckingham Palace, people young and old are gathering, some of them leaving flowers, and all with their own memories of a remarkable and much-loved member of the royal family. Our first report tonight is by our royal correspondent, Jenny Bond.
At Windsor Castle tonight, the Queen is mourning the loss of her mother, who at times had seemed so indestructible, but whose life finally ebbed away at 3:15 this afternoon. She died at her home close to the castle, where she'd been since the funeral of her younger daughter, Princess Margaret, in February. A statement from Buckingham Palace was issued at 5:45. It said, "The Queen, with the greatest sadness, has asked for the following announcement to be made immediately. Her beloved mother, Queen Elizabeth, died peacefully in her sleep this afternoon at Royal Lodge, Windsor." As well-wishers began to gather at the castle gates, more details emerged of the Queen Mother's final hours. Her doctors had been called this morning after her condition had deteriorated. The Queen and other members of the family gathered at her bedside. A local clergyman was called to say prayers. The Queen was with her mother when she died. Her niece, Margaret Rhodes, was there too. She said the end was peaceful and the Queen Mother would be greatly missed.
She was a wonderful, wonderful person. It was a wonderful life, spanning a whole more than 100 years. One can hardly believe that somebody who grew up in the horse age has seen people landing on the moon and all the things that happen now. She was just a wonderful person to know that we'll almost never see the like of again.
At Windsor, mourners expressed their sorrow at the passing of a woman who'd been part of our national life for most of a century.
She's been such a long-standing figure. She's provided such continuity to the royal family. Huge loss.
Yes, it's very sad it's happened this year, isn't it, with the Jubilee as well. So, very sad.
I think a piece of history has died today as well. The Queen Mother's one of probably the few people who witnessed the whole of the 20th century.
The Queen Mother's health began declining soon after her last major public appearance, a visit to the Ark Royal at Portsmouth in November. Then she had shown her customary zest for life, spending some 3 hours with the crew and their families.
It's wonderful to feel that now that she's going to be at sea and guarding our shores just as the days of yore.
A few weeks later, though, she developed a chest infection and bad cough, which she found hard to throw off. She became increasingly frail, and by the time of Princess Margaret's funeral last month, she was confined to a wheelchair. She hated being seen in it and travelled to the service in a car with blacked-out windows. Her death has come as a particular blow for Prince Charles, who began a week's skiing holiday at Cloisters only yesterday with his sons. The news was held back until he had been told. He said he was completely devastated. The three princes are expected to travel home tomorrow. Many other members of the royal family are already at Windsor. The funeral arrangements have not yet been announced, but the service is expected to be held at Westminster Abbey after a lying in state at Westminster Hall. The Queen Mother was always proud of her Scottish roots. Even at the age of 101, she chose to spend her final summer in Scotland. And tonight at Buckingham Palace, where she reigned as Queen and where she'd hoped to celebrate her daughter's Golden Jubilee in June, a lone piper sounded a lament for her long and eventful life. Jenny Bond, BBC News.
The Prime Minister has led tributes to the Queen Mother tonight. Speaking from Chequers, Tony Blair said she'd become a symbol of Britain's decency and courage.
First and foremost, our thoughts and prayers are with the Queen, particularly after the loss so recently